Well, hello everyone. You made May 25 here, and you see right here is that you talk about your resumes, and I'm sure most of us here, have heard of or had a resume at one time. Maybe not, have updated it, too much of time if it's anything to do with, keeping things updated. But I'm sure that if we were to like, pick a scheduled time, during the week or the month or the year or so, just to keep update, but you have right here is like you say for all-in-one, and basically the type of a resume that I'm talking about would be is like a you say talk about say for the future though is to where any source of information to it more likely to where that after we graduate, if we were a student or maybe doing job training or something like that, to where source of information that would be located on like a resume. And I'm sure if anybody will say that yeah, that's wherever online portfolios and stuff like that come from. But the type of job carrier, of course, I'm talking about will be also is to where that yeah, to where you'll take it anywhere around around the globe, around the world that you go. And you have a lot of thinking about, just because it's like, yeah, that a career that you used to do, nearly 5 years ago, that can necessarily to where any updates that come up, and I'm sure anybody that more likely may think to where if they were to get offered a job and thinking necessarily to where that's something that they used to that they used to be good at, they have experience, they have about 7 years experience working something, and then all of a sudden it's like they go ahead and move on to something else, or if it's anything to do with maybe 2 years later that you went to do something, went to go work somewhere else and then you came back or something like that, or anything you provide on any kind of a source of information, your resume. But I don't know if a lot of that information more likely they say that yeah, between your credit score and as well as that for any other tax documents or anything like that, that might say that yeah, that if it's going to be trying to work on the finances or anything like that. But say with the job carrier though, is like for like I mentioned before about job carrier, the main resume is source of information, not just like say birth certificate or anything, a grade report, but for the type of experience more like we have. And if like anybody, if you're be applying for a job and you're like thinking that you don't have any experience at all, but on your hand too, that if any of what you're using, what you see, if you're familiar with that, or if you feel confident for working with such some things and a few things. But the way I think about it, though, is that if we were to look at this at one form of paper right here, and thinking it seems like that all the details that are on there, I use lines right here as example right here, pointing out to say for all in one. All in one basically means to where that yeah, that just to get started, and if anything that you're like thinking that really that really what's in it for me, other than the fact about yeah, that well, they're looking for somebody with at least 5 or 10 years worth of experience, and as well as knowing how to handling it to where any updates that need to be performed or something like that. So they're like Warren to where all this stuff that seems like it's a lot of pressure and a lot of complications. So the whole part I guess about having a job is like for a career is to where like for the job carriers is to where for the purpose about the resume is to where when we look back at the past 10 or 15 or so years, you're like Warren to where I'm like really that where do I begin with the resume, and then on your hand that I'm like yeah, it's look good on the resume as well. But you see right here is painted picture right here is with the globe, with Earth, and then as well right here, these pictures right here, like his student, class, teacher, and as well as the grade book. And I'm sure most of us have seen these images already. But you have right here is a document, and like Warren, to where after you graduate, it just seems like to where that yeah, that it costs money, and I'm sure most students will probably say that that's one thing that they don't look forward to after they get a job. They want to go ahead and spend the money on their paycheck, just to go out and buy a nice car, a nice house, or maybe move out of state, and then maybe that they want to go ahead and and maybe if they got mortgage payments or something like that. But let's just say on average to where that whenever the bills come in, if it's going to be college funds like a that the college or if it's any borrowed money or anything like that, then thinking that really that anything that is related to bills, and you're like Warren to where you've got plenty of experience handling and managing and paying and filing your own taxes, paying your own bills, and maybe that you want to get into a job where you're doing something like that, maybe for a company or something like that, and like Warren to where oh no, if anybody's going to want to hire me, am I thinking about, what if they say that, they're looking mainly for, people with experience with something like, at least, 10 years worth of experience with computer programming, or if it's real estates, or, if it's car dealership sales, marketing, or if it's going to be anything such as, working for postal services or something like that. Like, where, so, other sources of jobs to where the things that more likely that they will be looking for. And one thing that maybe that we can maybe think about is like for like with me though, with like maybe like a designer and putting together like if it's going to be like a portfolio, like a resume right here. One thing we can maybe look at too is to where maybe one thing that they may pay attention to on your hand too, maybe about the schools. The schools that you went to, what was the reason why you transferred? Was it a long story and other sorts of information, and as well as and more likely they may say that yeah that at what age did you first buy a car? When did you get your license? And what the types of degrees that you have, but then on your hand that how well you're willing to work with customers. And I'm sure that that's maybe one thing that they more likely would ask you about how confident are you or are with working with other people. So it's like that's one thing that they may ask, especially to where, how confident are you with handling stuff handling papers and programmings as well as working with other people. So you're like Warren to where that handle as best as I can, or some they say, well, yeah, that I prefer not to work with the higher class in the offices to where that you got to take phone calls and put together, make copies, and they say, yeah, all I want to do is just make copies and work with the printer and the ink. But let's just say that, for anybody who's just getting started with the job, they say that, that they got restrictions to where, they don't want, to work in the, say, in the office or, maybe, near the copy machines or something like that. They just mainly, whenever they start, they mainly want to be in charge of, I guess, keeping things organized. So it's like, if there was a lot of papers that they say that were collected by other, individuals, if it's going to be, any, secretaries, or if it's going to be, any, business people or anything in the small business to where that anything, confidential, especially to where they, keep things organized to where they have access to later on. So they say, that's whenever PDF files come around. But just think about it. Nowadays with the social internet to where thinking about what can we create to improve for the better. The way I usually think about it is to where that I'm like, any internet site, they say that, yeah, well, the resume, a resume that more likely to where that somebody, maybe at the career center or somewhere or like that, to where they can go ahead and type one up or make one for you. But then maybe the problem is to where maybe that they can't view the file or it's outdated. And some that may wonder to where how do you know whenever a resume is outdated, and that really does a resume really expire? And I could probably say that it's more likely recommended every 6 months, maybe once a year, to update it if there's any changes. But I can more likely say to where that the one things that more likely that they would more likely be looking for on a resume would more likely be is like the type experience as well as the school, and as well as for how well you're capable of working say with the business and stuff like that. So if anybody were wondering to where I'm like, yeah, that some situation to where you were let go on the job, they more likely ask about that too. But on the other hand, that the whole purpose about is with a job, whereas like you have to say, always tell the truth, always be honest as best you know knowledge about, on a resume. So the way I think about this, I know about is the right thing. But anyway, talk about say the job carries like your main resume all in one. To say, you know, say